Good afternoon, dear Stitchers. I am Judy Whitman with JBW Designs, and I want to welcome you back to my channel. It has been several weeks since I have recorded, and I thought first, some of you have been watching and are subscribing. Some of you might be new to the channel, so I'll give you just a quick health update. A couple weeks ago, I had to have a procedure done on the side of my face to remove a cancerous spot. And it was quite large, so it had to be repaired by a plastic surgeon. And that was done 2 weeks ago. It went very well. I feel well. The scar is fairly significant. It goes from my ear down the side of my face. And I know that it will take a while to heal, but I can't thank you enough for all of the wonderful notes and good wishes and prayers that you sent my way, because I'm just sure that they helped. I'm feeling really good. I'm able to work again. So that's wonderful news, don't you think? I have several topics that I want to cover this afternoon. Excuse me, my voice sounds very hoarse. Let's try a little water here. Still hoarse. I'll just keep talking. So one of the amazing things that happens with these videos is that last time I asked my viewers to let me know where they were from. And that turned out just to be such a fascinating question, because not only, of course, all over the United States, but really I had responses from all over the world. And I want to list real quickly some of where some of our viewers are from, because I think it's quite remarkable. So we have Virginia, Texas, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, New York, Ohio, Idaho, Arizona, Washington State, Oregon, West Virginia, Maine, South Carolina, Missouri, Minnesota, Wisconsin. And I just think how fun that all of us who love to stitch are brought together through this medium of floss tube. I think it's just lovely. So some of the places that really surprised me, though, were the following. Sydney, Australia, which I'd love to visit. I've never been there, but would, of course, love to go. Scotland, another on my wish list for travel. We had Montreal, Quebec, Ottawa, British Columbia, Ontario, Canada, London, which I have been to, and it's been a while. Romania, isn't that something? Another London, a little town called Wokingham, which she said was 40 miles from London. And then the Yorkshire Dales, which is in the UK. And then the one that was probably most fascinating to me because of the stitching, the model, the historic antique model that we've been talking about, that is from Cornwall, is that someone from Cornwall actually wrote, and she lives 30 miles from Georgie, which is where this particular antique was stitched. And oh my gosh, I am tempted to send her on a little historic errand, but I won't do that. That's too much to ask of a viewer. But I did want to tell you a little bit about a little more history of this Cornwall sampler. I'm finding out so much. I'm still writing letters, so I'll tell you what happened since the last video. So I wrote to what I thought was Georgie cottage. Actually, it was the cottages. And I got a lovely email back from the owner, and she said no, that her property is not the manor, but there is actually like a vacation spot in Georgie that is called the manor. So now I've changed course again, and I have written to the owner of that property in hopes that she might be able to shed more light on the history of this sampler. But Linda from the cottages sent this beautiful picture out the window of her property of what Cornwall looks like. And I thought, oh, it's just as enchanting as I thought it would be. So that was quite fun. I was very appreciative of that. So let me tell you, today I'll tell you what we're going to do. I have two antique samplers that I want to talk to you about. And then I have Christmas models, because I feel like we're in November. It's time, we're all thinking about Christmas, even though Thanksgiving, of course, is first, but we're stitching for Christmas. And I thought, oh, I'll try to inspire you and show you some of the older models that I've stitched, which actually still sell well. People don't care if it's old or new. They love seeing them. So I have several of those to share with you. And then I have another idea for you all. So I'll do that probably towards the end of the video. And I have prizes to give today. So first of all, I'm going to bring out this sampler again, which you've seen several times. Excuse the glare. It was done by Monica Marshall. We found that she lived in Cornwall. She finished it in 1902, although she was born in 1895. And the history that I've discovered about her is actually quite remarkable. I actually keep files on all of my designs that I'm charting. It's not my design, of course, it was hers, but I have quite a bit of information on Monica, which has been just fascinating. So what I found today that I thought was quite interesting, I started thinking about the family's military service, because I found out that Monica's brother was in the Royal Fusiliers, which is a regiment. I looked online, it looked very scary is the word I want to say, because they're marching off to war, of course. This is World War I, it's 1914, but he did live, and I thought that was quite amazing considering what World War I was like there. Monica's husband was also a Major Valentine Gould MacArthur, and their son, John MacArthur, served in the military during World War II, and he also survived. And then their son actually was listed during World War II as a naval sub-lieutenant. And then Monica's daughter, Nina, married Major General Edward Hall. And so obviously this family was very devoted to serving in the military in England, and I thought that was quite an interesting aspect to her life. I also have realized, after going through all the census records for all the parts of her family, that they pretty much stayed in Cornwall or in England their whole lives. Here is one other mystery about Monica, though, that I can't quite put together, and maybe someone will have an idea for me. She actually died in Jersey in the Channel Islands, and if you look at the map, it's quite a ways off the coast of Cornwall, but I don't know that much about it. Hopefully some of you might have an idea of why she would have gone there. That one, I thought, that's another thing that I need to discover about her life. So that's all that I have on Monica this week. And then I have another sampler to share with you that I showed you briefly, I think, a couple of segments ago. And this one is also quite remarkable. I'm handling it very carefully. If you think about it, it was stitched in 1805, and so that makes it, 217 years old, 16 years old. And so that is just amazing. I've taken it out of the frame. I'm calling this the Olive Rowley sampler because that's the name of the little girl who stitched it. It's quite long, as you can see, so hard to show in the picture here. I love the shape of it because most of the samplers that we find that I actually have in my collection or that we see that have been reproduced are actually square. And so I love this horizontal shape of this piece. So I have found out a few things about Olive. She was born in 1791 in New York, and she stitched this sampler in 1805 when she was 14 years old. So I'm going to hold it up again. Well, you know what? I'll have to read it, so I'll have to leave it down before I hold it up. I can't do both things at once. Olive Rowley wrought this in the 14th year of her age, November the 7th, 1805. And then the verse that she uses is, "When this you see, remember me. Though many miles wee distant bee. Okay, I'm going to do water again. Sorry about that. And I thought that was such a lovely verse. And when I studied her life, I found out how poignant that date really turned out to be. So she was one of 9 children. And she had 2 brothers, and there were 2 brothers and 7 girls in the family. And she was like 3rd from the bottom in age. Her parents were named, her mother was named Patience. I thought, this is perfect. This poor woman with her 9 children had to have the patience of Job, and I'm sure she must have. And her father was named Moses. I have not found out a lot about Olive's life after this sampler, but what I did discover was that her father died on November 28th in the year 1805. So she just finished this sampler and lost her father several weeks later, which is just so heartbreaking. I did find his last will and testament, which was very interesting to read. It was all handwritten, in beautiful script. He leaves his estate, and I don't know actually what he did for a living, but he leaves his estate, and this is so interesting because it's so appropriate for the era, to his 2 sons and the 7 daughters. But the 2 sons get a larger portion than the daughters, which is probably not that unusual. All of the children were not able to inherit anything, though, until they were the age of 21. And then I asked my grandson Liam, who is a history buff, to find out a few things for me about what life would be like in the United States in 1805. And if you think about it, it's just remarkable again, because Thomas Jefferson was our president. And Louisiana Purchase was done in Olive's lifetime. So, you think about what her life must have been like. I'm sure it was a farming, very rural kind of life. But so I want to tell you a little bit more about the sampler. The linen itself is very, very coarse. You can see it if I hold it up close. It's quite a fine weave. I haven't measured it yet to see what the stitches per inch are. It was done in silk because it has a little sheen on, especially when you look at the back of it. And it's always interesting to look at the back of old samplers. Do you see all of her little threads? You can see them. It was hard for her to end them, but actually on the front of the piece, she did a very nice job. There are always little idiosyncrasies too. So when she started her alphabet, she did 2 A's, and then she did this little triangle like she was going to do another A, and I think she forgot. So then she continued on with 2 more. I've charted this, so this is when I really study things. The other thing that was so interesting is this little border here kind of droops off to the side a little bit. And then there's this great section in the middle where I wonder now if she intended to put her lowercase letters, but because there are no lowercase letters on this sampler. The other thing that's just fascinating, let's see if I can fold it so you can see it up close, is all done in cross stitch except for these capital letters. And they are done in an eyelet stitch. And so I am reproducing this. I'm actually stitching it in red on a 36 count linen. And I haven't done eyelet stitches in so long, and I've discovered that they're quite fun to do. So when I chart it, I will give you a choice. You could do the eyelet stitch, or an eyelet stitch takes up a 4x4 thread count. So you could do 4 cross stitches in the place of each eyelet. So let me show you what mine is looking like. It's very wrinkled, excuse me. And then I have a funny story to tell you. Remember last time in the video I talked to you about mistakes and how sometimes we can just keep going and leave them. Well, last night I was stitching away and I discovered I had stitched a whole section in the wrong red. So here are my little eyelet stitches for Olive Sampler. And here's what it's going to look like. I'm actually stitching this in hand, but I'm loving the way it looks, and tonight I'll get back to it and fix that whole section that I had to take out. Sometimes that's what we have to do, right? So that is my history on 2 of my antique samplers, which will be reproduced, of course, not until after the first of the year. Now I'm going to move on to a whole entirely different topic. So what I did today is, let's see, I've got to check my notes here. I have many notes. I pulled out quite a few of older models for Christmas, and I thought, oh, I'll share those with you. I'll show you what the designs look like. We'll talk about the finishing, how they're stitched, etc. So the first one I'm going to share with you today is called French Country Angel. Here she is. You could also, I've seen people stitch this and put their child's name on it, which would be adorable. Since it falls in the French country line, it has all these other little symbols in it. And this one was stitched over 2 on a 28 count linen. It was beautifully finished by one of my professional finishers with the ruched ribbon on the edge. Just beautiful. And then I also stitched it on 28 count over 1. And I always love, as you know, doing it over 1 too, because they look so sweet. So that booklet looks like this. And I stitched it in on a 29 linen, actually, which is, as I've told you, is not made anymore, but 28 would work just as well. And I used Strawberry Fields from Weeks Dye Works as the color. So that's the little French Country Angel design, which would make a really sweet decoration at Christmas time. Then the next thing I'm going to show you is one that is kind of surprising me, that's been being ordered quite a bit lately, and it's fairly old. It's called the Christmas Pear Tree. And this was finished just as an easel, and you can see the rickrack around the edges. This was stitched on a polka dot fabric, and I don't believe that this particular polka dot is still being made. It was a very, as you can see, a white on a very pale ecru fabric, but certainly there are other polka dot fabrics on the market these days. And that booklet looks like this. And I believe this was stitched in a Weeks also. Yes, it was stitched in collards, or you could use a crescent color steamed broccoli. I could see this done really in any color. It could be in red. You know, there's just so many. When you do the monochromatic pieces, there's so many options for you. So another one that I'm going to show you, and you'll have to do a little search to find the finishing on this one. This is a design that for some reason has been repinned on Pinterest dozens of times. And I think it's because the finishing was so beautiful. And the design that I'm talking about is French Country Reindeer. So this one was stitched over 1 on a natural linen in just a dark green fiber. But I've also, on the cover of the booklet, you can see I stitched the same design in red. And I used a natural linen for that. And let me check on the fiber on that. I used garnet from Weeks Dye Works for that design. So you can see what that looks like. This one has just continued to sell over the years. I keep reprinting it, which is always a happy thing. So I have 2 other models to share with you today. This is one of my favorites. It's funny, if people said to you, what's your favorite design? I actually don't think I could come up with an answer for that. But I think we, as designers, we all have ones that just kind of speak to us that we really like. So this is called Santa's Sleigh Ride. Here's the booklet. And this was stitched on an antique white opalescent. I don't think it's going to show up on here. And the little reindeer has a little bell under his neck. I used some Krynic metallics for the gold. Primarily, though, I believe, let me double check, that it is stitched in all Weeks Dye Works, yes, colors, but I always give DMC equivalents. So that's Santa's Sleigh Ride. It would be sweet to put a little child's name underneath the design rather than the ho, ho, ho. All right, quite a pile of stuff over here. And then, okay, the next one I wanted to talk to you about is one that's called Be Joyful. What a nice sentiment for this time of year, right? Now this particular pattern has two designs in it. So it has the Joy design, and then it also has the Noel design. And the finishing on this is so lovely. I'll show that to you up close. So it's been finished and mounted on a board. So the back board, of course, was just covered with your lining fabric. The front was padded quite a bit with layers of batting. And then the edges it's been trimmed in almost like a baker's twine, a red and white. But you could make this, you could reproduce this by using your little twisted cording tool from Kreinik, and you could make a red and white twisted cording to use for the finishing of the edges of this. And then let me show you the bottom of it, because there are it's been turned, if you can see, into little twists, and there is a pin that holds each one of those twists in place. So I think the finishing on that is just very inspiring for us. And then the last thing that I wanted to show you, and this is going to be probably a little awkward, we'll see how it goes. I, as you know, have been showing you these booklets, which have proven to be so popular. Actually, I'm sold out of book number 2. It's being reprinted as we speak. But these are the Christmas Ornament Collection books, and there's 3 editions. They're spiral bound. Each one contains 20 ornaments. And these designs actually came from books that I published previously. So what I've done is I've done a compilation of designs, all different in each of the 3 booklets. There are many floss tubers who have been featuring these patterns, and I'm so grateful for that. Annie from the Proper Stitcher has been stitching some of these pieces. Artie from the Vintage Stitcher has been doing them. Chris from Chris Cross Stitch has been stitching them also. So I'm very grateful. I'm sure that is accounting for the increase in sales lately. So what I thought I would bring to show you, which I said was going to be awkward, so I'm going to try to place this in a place, it's not quite high enough. Well, let's see if let's experiment here. I'm going to try this. I'm going to try it here, and then I'm going to try to twist. There we go. That might work a little better. All right, that's a little better. I need something to balance it so I can talk to you about it. So each one of the ornaments that are on this tree, and I will admit I've been working on them for quite a while, are stitched over 1. But I don't want that to discourage you. I want you to realize that you can stitch that very same ornament over 2, and it will not be that much larger. So for instance, here's one of the little designs. It's actually tiny little Christmas trees. Here is the design stitched over 1, and here is the design stitched over 2, and they're both done on a 28 count linen. So I want to encourage you, if you see a design that you like, you think, oh, I can't do the over 1, don't worry about it. Do it over 2. You can do it. It'll turn out beautifully. So I'm going to show you some of the ornaments on the tree, and then I'm also going to show you a few more that are stitched over 2. So we have quite a variety here. Let's see what you can see here. So we've got hearts, we have mittens, stockings, trees. There's another stocking, another tree. Let me keep turning. So here is a wreath and a rocking horse. You can't really see the top here. Another little tree. This is a little sweet bag. Here's another Christmas tree, a heart. You see the variety here. A tiny sleigh. Here is the English plum pudding. A little Swedish girl. So I'm hoping that this will inspire you to think about stitching them, because many of these can be stitched in one evening. And so if I was going to encourage you to tackle this, I'd say, pick out 5 or 6 designs, stitch them, and then kind of do an assembly line for your finishing. And if you're interested again on another video about finishing the ornaments, I have done that on other videos. I'd be glad to talk to you about it again. So I thought you'd get a kick out of seeing that piece, or that tree. And so here are a couple of the designs that are on that tree that were, whoops, I just lost a charm off there. I'll have to repair it. So this is one of the designs that would be easy to stitch over to, that's in the booklet. So there's this Christmas tree, there's this one, and these of course are all stitched over too. There's the tree of trees, a little forest of trees. And here's another one of the little stockings that's stitched with kind of a leaf motif. So you can see how sweet they are over too. So hopefully I'll inspire you. So my last topic for today, second to last, is I want to talk to you about something that several of our viewers brought up in the last video. And that is that they expressed interest in designing a sampler using their own family history. And I really liked that idea, and I thought that would be a wonderful topic to talk about with my viewers, because I'm going to show you a number. Let me push this out of the way, grab this pile of books that I have here. I wanted you to think about if this is something that you were interested in starting for yourself. I would start out and make a list of kind of the motifs that you wanted to include in your sampler design. And most of you probably don't have charting software, but it can be done on graph paper very easily. And I would encourage you to think about adding an alphabet of some kind. You could add a house of some kind if that's part of your family history that you wanted to put in the sampler. You could add animals. You could add all kinds of motifs, regional motifs, or motifs that you think are part of your family history. And I have several hundred books, of course, that I use for reference, but I picked out 5 or 6 of them that I wanted to share with you. And I'm not sure if they're all in print. Some of them are older, but I would encourage you, if you are looking for a good price on them, I would go to Thrift Books, THRIFT, because I have found good prices on that website. So one of the books that actually has been newly released, I think in the last year, is Brenda Key's Ultimate Sampler Motifs Source Book. And you've probably seen this listed, but it is just full of wonderful things that you could add, trees and people and ships and animals, all kinds of things that would be fun, flowers and houses. Whoops, let's see. I almost lost my and there are borders on here, and that would be another wonderful thing to add to your sampler. You wouldn't have to do a border around the outside edge. You could do borders across the piece. So these are just ideas I'm throwing out. I'll be interested to see if there's any interest in pursuing this. This is another book that I bought fairly recently. It's called 100 Antique Patterns, Plates, Book 1. And you can see here that this contains also motifs, borders, lots of good alphabets. So that would be another source for you. This is another one that I like very well. This is a French one. And I'm going to list these titles in my credits below the video today so that if you don't catch the title and the author, that you'll have a list to refer to later. So this, and I do not speak French, which you know, Motifs, Dier, and Point de Croix is cross stitch in French. And this is a lovely book. It too has, let me see if I can show you. It's taken pages from old sampler design books. And so that would be another source. One of my favorite alphabet books, and this actually is kind of pricey, is another French book. You can see the title here. I will not pronounce it, but I'll let you read it here because you'll be cringing as I pronounce in French. But it is full of lowercase and uppercase alphabets. What I love about this is each alphabet shows you at the top of the page the height of the alphabet. And sometimes that's really important when you're designing something and you need something 10 high, 11 high, 15, and then it has, of course, very large letters also. So that has been a good source book. Another one that I bought quite a while ago, I believe, yes, this is from the Scarlet Letter, is called Architecture from Early Samplers. And she too has all kinds of houses, antique homes in here. She's got trees. Let's see if I can find anything else here. She just has some very interesting history and also some layouts that might be of interest to you. And some of you who are doing genealogy, this might make a lot of sense too. This is an older book also that I've had. In fact, it's falling apart. It's called Making Samplers by Jutta, Lammer. And there are a lot of great alphabets in here, a lot of great motifs. This is another by the same author called Beautiful Old Alphabets. It too, you can see, is falling apart. I have used this as a resource quite often. And then the last one that I pulled out today is one that is also published by the Scarlet Letter, and it's called More Alphabets from Early Samplers. And I'm glad I pulled this out today because I have a German sampler that I just finished charting and stitching, and I want to see if I can locate those letters in this resource. I need to do research on that particular sampler. So those are hopefully of interest to you. If not, well, we'll move on to another thing, right? So I have prizes today, and my prizes are going to be all of the books that I showed you earlier. Let's see if I can find, here they are. All right, so let me tell you the name of the winner and what they're going to be winning. When I give out prizes, I ask that you email me at my email address. It's judy@jbwdesigns.com. That's the best way to reach me. Messaging does not work very well, nor does Instagram. So I prefer the email. So you have to be 18 or over, you have to be a subscriber and like the channel, and send me your address and I'll send you the prize. So Monica Huggins, you're going to be winning the French Country Angel this week. Phyllis Lundy, you're going to be winning Be Joyful. Let's see here. Loretta Henderson, you're going to be winning Christmas Pear. Lois Durrell, you're going to be winning Santa's Sleigh Ride. And that was Durrell. And the last one is Seams, Seams, Stitchy. You're going to be winning the French Country Reindeer. So write me a note. So far, I've had good luck. I've been able to send out all my prizes from my last videos, so I hope I have good luck today. I want to thank you again all for watching my videos. I just am so grateful for the number of subscribers I have, for those who are telling others about my channel. I just can't thank you enough. So I do have another short topic for you this week. And then I'll tell you what I'm working on. So last time I gave you my thought of the week was don't worry about your mistakes. And this week, my thought of the week is going to be, I am going to encourage you, and I have to do this with myself too, because I've not been good about it, to mark the back of your work with a date, your name, perhaps the designer, the name of the design, whether it's an antique or reproduction. I think it is so important. And I think I'm realizing that because I'm finding out that any information that is attached to an old sampler or any of your work is so, I think, important to record what you have done. Also, another viewer gave me this idea and I thought it was great. She said, add a postcard on the back of your work from your hometown. Wouldn't that be fun for and somebody who's finding your sampler 100 years from now to see a postcard of where you lived? So I hope that you take to heart those suggestions. I've been working very hard lately on stitching. I finished stitching my antique Helene sampler. I'll show you that probably in the next video. I have designed another piece and stitched 2 models of that. I'm working on, you saw earlier, the olive Rowley sampler, and I also have charted 2 new designs and haven't stitched them yet. So you can see there's a lot on my plate to work on, and there's never a dull moment, that's for sure. So thank you again. Please write if you have questions. I love answering your questions and corresponding with you. It's just a great way to make new friends. And thank you again for all of your kind thoughts. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.